We are reading in chapter 3 of A Spy in Siberia. The title of the story is Tanat's Story. Remember that from chapter 2, there was strange warming happening in the mountains. They were noticing that the tops of the mountains in Siberia were quickly changing in temperature from cold to warm. And it was very unusual and not normal. And so they sent the spy, Fiona Stone, to investigate. So here she's now leaving Texas and going to Siberia to investigate what's happening in Siberia. The title is Tanat's Story. Fiona's journey to Siberia took a very long time. The first plane was comfortable, but she had to change flights many times, and each plane was smaller and less comfortable than the last. The final plane was very basic, and the pilot was an old man with a long beard. Dirty parachutes hung next to the door of the cabin in case there was an accident. Fiona noticed them and felt a little nervous. As the tiny plane took off, it shook in the air. The agency could pay for a better plane, but this pilot was a local expert. He came from a tribe of people who lived close to the area that Fiona was going to. She closed her eyes and hoped for the best. They flew over a beautiful landscape with snow-covered mountains. All around them the snow was intact, with no buildings in sight. Luckily, Fiona was wearing a very warm survival jacket because the air was extremely cold. Remember the word that we talked about, extremely cold, is freezing. At last, the plane began to descend, go down, and the pilot pointed ahead to a group of tall trees covered with animal skins against the freezing weather. The plane landed in a rocky area, too small for most planes to land on. This pilot is very professional, Fiona thought. She climbed out of the plane and saw a group of men, women, and children wearing warm coats and scarves. They smiled and took Fiona to the largest tent, which was warm and comfortable inside. She sat down on a pile of carpets and took a small black box from her bag. This was the latest invention from the lab, an auto translator the size of a smartphone. This little box could recognize any language in the world and translate it into any other language immediately. This was going to be extremely useful in this frozen place. A man in a green hat sat down next to her and began to speak in his language. Fiona pressed a button on the translator, and the man's words came out of the machine, translated into English. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Maybe we should use this machine in school. Hello, he said. My name is Tanat. I'm the leader of this tribe. Welcome. The people in the tent looked confused, so Fiona quickly recorded her answer in the translator. Hello, my name is Fiona Stone. Thank you for welcoming me, she said. I'm very happy to meet you. She pressed another button, and the words which came from the auto-translator were completely different. The people in the tent were very impressed. They had never seen anything like this before. An elderly woman gave Fiona a hot cup of tea to drink and a plate of meat to eat. After that, Fiona listened to Tanat's story via the translation machine. One night I was sleeping. I was woken up by my dogs, Tanat told her. They were barking loudly, and I could tell that something was wrong. We keep reindeer here, and I thought that maybe one of them had escaped. So I ran outside to see what was happening. By the time I reached the kennels, the barking had stopped. I looked inside. I couldn't believe what I saw. All my dogs were dead. The man's eyes filled with tears as he remembered the event. At first, I was horrified, and then I was furious, he continued. I looked around to see who had done such a terrible thing, but there was nobody there. My wife thought it had been demonic spirits, but I don't believe in ghosts. Fiona listened very carefully. She didn't believe in ghosts either. The story of the dogs was very disturbing. The next night, I couldn't sleep, continued Tanat. I was worried about our reindeer, so I stayed up to take care of them in case the killer returned. I was so tired that I almost fell asleep. But then, a bright light suddenly flashed in the sky above the mountains. It was very strange. It looked like fire, but it was green and blue. The great light illuminated the whole sky for a few seconds, and then everything went black again. I thought I was dreaming, but the light was real. Then I noticed vapor rising from the snow on the mountains with a strange sound. The ground began to tremble a little, and I could feel heat under my feet. It was the strangest experience of my life. Tanat looked afraid as he told his story. I think my people should move away from here, he said. It's not safe. I think you're right, agreed Fiona. But first, I need you to take me to those mountains. Well, she's getting closer. She's getting closer. She found a key witness to what had happened on those mountains. Some key vocabulary here. Parachutes. Parachutes are if you jump out of a plane, if you don't want to die, you have a parachute. It's a piece of cloth that you can hang onto the cords, or you have it wrapped around your body, and so you kind of float to the ground, sort of float. Take off. Take off is when a plane takes off. It goes off the tarmac onto the sky. Take off. And then landing is when you land. No, landing. So planes take off, go up, and land. Take up, take off, land. Another one, reindeer. Reindeer are a type of a deer that's in the north, in the snow. And, we have the famous song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose. And then kennels. Kennels are where you keep animals, and more specifically, dogs. Kennels are where you keep the dogs, where they stay. And that's it. That's it for chapter 3, okay? And hope you have a good week, and we'll see you for chapter 4. Okay, goodbye.